let me ask you something uncomfortable. When was the last time you were genuinely happy for someone else's success, without feeling even a tiny sting of something you couldn't quite name? Maybe your neighbor pulled into the driveway last week in a brand new SUV, shiny, black, the kind that still smells like a dealership. And for one split second, just one, you didn't think, good for him. You thought, why not me? Or maybe your coworker casually mentioned they just bought a vacation home, 2 bedrooms, a pool, mountain view, and suddenly your perfectly nice apartment felt smaller than it did that morning. The walls felt closer, the furniture looked older. Nothing in your life actually changed, but somehow everything felt different. Or maybe it wasn't a car or a house. Maybe it was something smaller, a friend's new phone, a colleague's designer bag, someone's Instagram photo from a resort you've always wanted to visit. And for just a moment you probably felt a little ashamed of, you felt it. That quiet, uncomfortable burn. That feeling has a name. It's called financial envy. And here's the part that nobody talks about. It's not just making you miserable, it's actively, systematically making you broke. And it's doing it in ways so subtle that most people never even notice it's happening. Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to Zachy Invests. I'm Zachy, and this channel exists because of one belief, that understanding how you think about money is just as important, maybe more important, than understanding money itself. Every single week, we dig into the psychology behind financial decisions, why we overspend, why we undersave, why genuinely smart, hardworking people still end up broke, and what you can actually do to think and act differently. On this channel, we've broken down everything from why your bank is quietly manipulating your spending habits, to the real psychology behind why high earners stay stuck, to how dopamine and marketing work together to drain your bank account. If you're new here, welcome, and make sure you subscribe, because the stuff we cover here is the kind of financial education that should be mandatory but never is. All right, let's get into today's topic, because this one is going to feel very personal for a lot of you. I want you to meet Marcus. Marcus is 32 years old. He earns a solid income, not exceptional, but solid. He drives a 5-year-old Honda that runs perfectly fine. He has an apartment he actually likes. He's been putting money aside every month. Nothing dramatic, but steady. On paper, Marcus is genuinely doing okay. Then his neighbor Daniel buys a Mercedes. Now Marcus didn't ask to see this car. He didn't go looking for it. He just walked to his own car one morning and there it was, parked 2 spots over, gleaming, new, unmistakably expensive. And something shifted in Marcus that he didn't fully understand and couldn't fully control. He didn't consciously decide to be bothered, it just happened. He started noticing his own car differently. The small scratch near the door handle that he'd stopped seeing years ago, suddenly visible again. The dashboard that felt modern when he bought it, now somehow dated. The engine sound, was it always that loud? Nothing about his car changed, but how he felt about it changed completely. Over the next few weeks, Marcus started browsing cars online, just out of curiosity, he told himself. Then he visited one dealership, just to look, then another. He test drove a few. He ran the numbers. He told himself he deserved an upgrade. He'd worked hard. His car was getting old anyway. And 6 weeks after Daniel's Mercedes appeared in the parking lot, Marcus drove home in a car he couldn't comfortably afford, with monthly payments that would quietly strangle his savings for the next 5 years. And the worst part? 3 months later, the new car feeling was completely gone. The excitement faded. The payments remained. This is not a story about Marcus making a bad decision in isolation. This is a story about a psychological pattern so deeply embedded in human behavior that it plays out every single day, in every income bracket, in every country in the world. And understanding it, really understanding it, might be one of the most financially important things you ever do. Let's start with the science behind what actually happened to Marcus. In 1954, a psychologist named Leon Festinger published a theory called social comparison theory. His core argument was simple but profound. Human beings don't evaluate themselves against some fixed, objective standard. We evaluate ourselves by comparing ourselves to other people. Our income, our possessions, our status, our success, we measure all of it relative to the people around us. And here's what makes this financially dangerous. The people we compare ourselves to most intensely are not random. We compare ourselves to people in our immediate social circle. Neighbors, co-workers, friends, and increasingly people we follow online. People who feel close enough that their life seems achievable to us. People whose lifestyle feels like something we should be able to reach. You probably don't lie awake at night feeling envious of a tech billionaire's private island. It's too far away. It doesn't feel like a real measuring stick. But your co-worker's kitchen renovation? Your neighbor's new car? Your college friend's house? That's different. That feels real. That feels like something that should be within your reach. And if it isn't, something must be wrong. This is the trap. And marketers discovered it long before psychologists gave it a name. There's a phrase that's been part of popular culture for over 100 years, keeping up with the Joneses. It started as a comic strip in 1913, following a family that constantly struggled to match the lifestyle of their neighbors, the Joneses. The strip ran for decades. It became a permanent part of the English language, and the reason it lasted is because it described something universally, painfully human. Now, let me show you what this actually costs, with real numbers. Meet two people, James and Priya. Both earn exactly $70,000 a year. Same income, same starting point. James lives in a neighborhood where most people earn around the same as him. The cars are modest, the vacations are normal, the houses are comfortable but not extravagant. James doesn't think much about upgrading because nothing around him is triggering that comparison reflex. He saves about 15% of his income. He lives well within his means. Priya also earns $70,000, but Priya moved into a nicer neighborhood 2 years ago, one where most of her neighbors earn $130,000, $150,000, even more. Same income as James, completely different social environment. And here's what the research consistently shows. Priya spends dramatically more than James, not because she has more money, because her reference group is different. The invisible measuring stick she uses to evaluate her own life is calibrated at a much higher level. She upgrades her car, not because hers stopped working, but because in her neighborhood it feels embarrassing by comparison. She renovates her kitchen, not because it was broken, but because every dinner party she attends has a better one. She starts taking more expensive vacations, not because the cheaper ones weren't fun, but because she's surrounded by people whose travel stories make her feel like she's falling behind. None of these decisions feel like envy to Priya. They feel like reasonable standards. They feel like normal life, but the financial outcome is quietly devastating. While James steadily builds wealth month after month, Priya spends nearly everything she earns, and some months more than she earns, chasing a lifestyle benchmark that keeps rising because the people around her keep raising it. This is what financial envy actually looks like in practice. It rarely feels like jealousy. It feels like aspiration. It feels like standards. It feels like you just want a decent life. But underneath, the engine running all of it is comparison. And comparison, when it drives your spending, is almost always a losing game. Now here's where the science gets really fascinating and a little unsettling. Your brain is running on ancient hardware. It was built for a world that no longer exists, a world of small tribal communities where your entire social universe was maybe 50 to 150 people you knew personally. In that world, social comparison was genuinely useful. Your standing in the group directly affected your access to food, shelter, protection, and partnership. Noticing that someone else had more and understanding why was survival information. But here's the problem your brain hasn't solved. It cannot meaningfully distinguish between your actual neighbor and an influencer you follow on Instagram. To the social comparison systems in your brain, they register similarly, which means that when you spend 2 hours scrolling through a curated feed full of people in luxury apartments, driving beautiful cars, eating at expensive restaurants, and vacationing on beaches, your brain processes that as your social environment. It quietly updates its idea of what normal looks like, and it recalibrates your sense of your own adequacy against a standard that is impossible, manufactured, and often completely fake. This is why social media has been such a financial disaster for so many people. It's not just the time it wastes, it's the reference group it silently installs in your brain. Now let's talk about dopamine, because this is where it gets really interesting. Dopamine is often described as the brain's reward chemical, but that's not quite accurate. Dopamine is really about anticipation and desire. It's the chemical that fires when you're chasing something, not just when you get it. And crucially, dopamine responds most powerfully not to absolute gains, getting something good, but to relative gains, getting something that puts you ahead of others. This means that upgrading your car doesn't just feel good because the car is nice, it feels good because of the status signal it sends. The feeling of being slightly ahead, even briefly, creates a dopamine spike. You feel good. You feel successful. You feel like you've moved up. But here's the catch. That feeling fades, usually within weeks, sometimes months. The new car becomes just the normal car. The kitchen renovation becomes just your kitchen. The vacation becomes just a memory. And your brain, still running its ancient comparison software, starts looking for the next upgrade, the next status signal, the next relative gain. Psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill. You upgrade your life, your expectations upgrade with it. Your baseline shifts upward, and you need the next thing to feel the same temporary lift. Meanwhile, your neighbor has already moved on to the next purchase that will quietly trigger your next round of comparison. You're running as fast as you can, and you're staying exactly in place. Except that every step on that treadmill has a price tag, and those price tags are what's draining your financial future. There's also something called status anxiety, a concept explored deeply by the philosopher Alain de Botton. His argument is that modern consumer society has created a world where your material possessions are constantly being read as signals of your worth as a person. The car you drive tells people something about you. The neighborhood you live in tells people something about you. The watch on your wrist, the brand of your clothes, the phone in your hand, all of it is being read, consciously or unconsciously, as information about your status. And when you feel that your possessions are sending the wrong message, when you feel like the signals you're broadcasting say less than, the psychological discomfort is real and intense. So you spend to correct it. You buy the thing that sends a better signal. And the relief is genuine, but temporary, because the people around you are doing the same thing. The signals keep inflating, and you keep chasing. Okay, quick pause here. If you're watching this and thinking this is literally describing my life, first of all, you're not alone. Second of all, that self-awareness is genuinely valuable and most people never develop it. If this video is connecting with you, do me a favor and hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need to hear this. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we go deep on this kind of stuff every week. And drop a comment below. I want to know what's one purchase you've made that, if you're honest with yourself, was really driven by comparison rather than genuine need. No judgment. This is a safe space. All right, now let's talk about what you actually do about all of this, because awareness is step one, but it's not enough on its own. So we understand the trap. We understand why it works. Now, how do you actually escape it? First, audit your reference group. This is the most important step, and almost nobody does it consciously. Sit down and seriously ask yourself, who am I comparing myself to? Not who you think you're comparing yourself to. Who are you actually using as your measuring stick? Your neighbors, your coworkers, the people in your social media feed, a specific friend whose lifestyle always seems to trigger something in you? Because here's the thing, you probably didn't choose that reference group deliberately. It was assigned to you by circumstance, by where you live, where you work, who you follow online. And once you can see that clearly, you can start to question whether it's actually serving you. Ask yourself, does comparing my life to these people lead me to make better decisions or just more expensive ones? Second, change what you compare. Here's a psychological reframe that actually works. Instead of comparing your current situation to someone else's current situation, which is a game you will almost always lose because you're comparing your full reality to someone else's highlight reel, start comparing your current self to your future self. Ask not, why does my neighbor have a better car than me, but what would happen to my financial life if I invested the money I'd spend on a car upgrade instead? Let's make this concrete because I want you to feel this number. Say upgrading your car costs you an extra $450 a month in payments. Over 5 years, that's $27,000, and that's before interest. Now imagine instead you put $450 a month into an index fund for 10 years, earning a modest 8% annual return. You'd end up with approximately $82,000. $82,000 from one decision. One comparison you chose not to act on. That's not just money, that's options. That's a down payment. That's a safety net. That's the ability to take a risk on something you actually care about. And you traded it, not for the car, but for the temporary feeling of being slightly ahead of someone who probably wasn't even paying attention. Third, build identity around what you're building, not what you're displaying. The people who consistently build wealth over time, regardless of income level, share one trait that stands out above everything else. They've separated their sense of self-worth from visible consumption. They don't need the car or the watch or the renovation to prove anything because their identity isn't built on other people's perception of them. They've replaced the question, what does my life look like to others, with, is my life actually moving toward what I want? And that shift, quiet as it sounds, changes everything about how they spend. Start asking, for every significant purchase, am I buying this because it genuinely adds value to my life? Or am I buying it because of how it will look, because of what it will signal, because someone else having it made me feel like I should have it too? You don't have to answer no every time. Sometimes the thing genuinely adds value, but you need to know which one it is. You need to be making the choice consciously, not being dragged into it by your brain's social comparison machinery running on autopilot. Fourth, curate your environment, online and offline. If your Instagram feed is full of luxury lifestyle content that consistently makes you feel inadequate, that's not inspiration. That's a financial liability. Unfollow it, not because you're weak, but because you're strategic. The same logic applies offline. This isn't about avoiding successful people. It's about being intentional about whose lifestyle you allow to become your reference point. Spend time with people who talk about building, learning, and growing, not just acquiring. The conversations you have regularly shape the standards you hold yourself to. Here's the truth that ties everything together. Financial envy is not a character flaw. It's not weakness. It's not a sign that something is wrong with you. It's one of the most deeply human psychological responses that exists, wired into us over hundreds of thousands of years of evolution for reasons that once made complete sense. But the world has changed faster than our brains have, and in the modern world, with social media, luxury advertising, and constant lifestyle exposure, that ancient comparison wiring is being exploited in ways our ancestors could never have imagined. Every algorithm, every advertisement, every carefully curated social media feed is designed to activate that comparison reflex, to make you feel slightly behind, slightly inadequate, slightly in need of something that will put you back ahead. And it works. It works on almost everyone, almost all the time, without them ever realizing it's happening. The moment you understand that mechanism, really understand it, not just intellectually, but emotionally, is the moment you start making financial decisions from a completely different place, not from fear of falling behind, not from the need to signal something to people who aren't really watching, but from a clear, deliberate sense of what you actually want your financial life to look like. Your neighbor's car is not your problem. It never was. It's just a car. The problem was never what he had. The problem was what his car did to your brain without your permission. Take the permission back. Because real wealth, the kind that actually changes your life, is built quietly by people who stopped running someone else's race and started walking deliberately toward their own finish line. That's everything for today. And honestly, this is one of those topics I could go even deeper on. So let me know in the comments if you want a follow-up video. If this one landed for you, share it with someone in your life who needs to hear it, because most people are trapped in this pattern and don't even know it exists. Subscribe to Zaki Invests if you're not already part of the community. We put out new videos every week on the psychology of money, investing, and building real financial freedom. And next week, we're covering something that surprises almost everyone. You don't want to miss that one. I'm Zaki. Stay smart with your money, and I'll see you in the next one.